Hello, welcome to another edition of Prove All Things. Want to thank everybody joining us today, whether you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, or X, or you're watching in the CGI Digital Network app, whether that's on your phone, television, computer, wherever you are. We thank you for joining us live, and to everyone else who's watching this recorded, we thank you for joining us as well. I have with me co-host Mike James. How you doing, Mike?
Hey Jeff, doing well. I'm in a different location today in the house. Trying out some technical issues to see if we can resolve them. I was told to get closer to the modem. I was in my room, which is real close, but I can't be there today, so I'm down the hall. But so far, so good, I think, on the technical aspects we're trying to correct. And I think this might do the trick that when I get close to the modem, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, hopefully you won't cut out as much as we've had. It hasn't been that big of a problem, but we want to try to have the best program possible if we can. I know that for the people out there watching. So
Definitely, definitely. I got one thing to announce for this week, Jeff. We've got the cell group meetings that I conduct once a month. They'll be happening this Saturday. For anybody out there that's interested in that, they can shoot me an email, and I can get you a link to that. I do one in the morning, Saturday morning early for the East Coast and the Midwest, and then I do one for the west and the mountain areas later in the day.
how's the cell groups going? Like, would you say right now, as far as since it started?
Yeah, so since it started, we've had about 33 creations. A few of those have fallen by the wayside, and we just had a new one pop up in Minnesota about a week and a half ago. A little cell got going
Hmm.
up in the middle of Minnesota, and that's the latest one we've had. They're getting less frequent, but we did have some success just about a week and a half ago with a little cell up there. And I did receive a call from Mike Nolan that someone in Tennessee was interested in a cell location that we had there. So he's going
Hmm.
to connect those folks together. And in Michigan, again, we're having a little activity here.
Yeah.
One of the cells we created in Michigan, there was someone who wanted to contact them, and Herb Hansen, the minister in Detroit, is overseeing that. So he informed me about a connection with the cell up there.
So if anyone wants to look at, or if you're looking for a church or looking to start a cell group, they can give you an email to ask you about that.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't have something going on in your area and you want to get something going, I'm the man to talk to. What we'll do is we'll find out where you're located. We will do an email and letter mailing campaign to your area within a 50-mile radius. And hopefully, we'll get some responses. I'll vet those responses, I'll connect them to you, and then you can hopefully start meeting as often as you like, once, twice a month, or every Sabbath if you can.
Mhm.
So people are doing different things. Some are doing Bible studies, some are watching the webcasts, some are having their just fellowship meetings in their homes. So just let me know if you want to get something going, and we'll try to help you.
Yeah, and the list of all those groups are on cgi.org. You can go to our website and just look for local churches. There's a link right there on the front of the page, and you can also find it in the menu. Go to local churches. You can see all the places that we have local churches and these cell groups, and also just people who are looking for other people in their area as well. We have a
Right,
list of
right.
those as
Once
well.
you get through the USA church list, at the bottom of that list, there's another list that is called single and couple home fellowship. And these are people who are a single person somewhere or a couple, married couple, that are looking for fellowship in different locations.
Yep. So definitely a good thing that's going on there. All right, we're going to bring in our guest today, all the way from Texas. How you doing, Diane?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you, Diane. Good to see you down there. And where are you in Texas?
Well, right now I'm in my son's home because
Oh,
he has the better internet connection than I do. And
mhm.
that would be just outside of a little town called Avenger, a population of about 400. And I'm 3 miles outside. This is in northeast Texas, about, 60 miles south of Texarkana.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I've been there before to the house. It is out there, but it's definitely a very pretty place and nice to I guess be out there amongst the country folk.
We have cows and chickens and goats and all kinds of varmints outside, right outside.
All right. Well, hey, it's good to have you with us, Diane. Wondering if you could give us like a background, like how did you get into the Church of God, and it's a background about what you're going to talk to us about today.
Well, I was probably in my early 20s when my parents got involved with Worldwide Church of God in California. I personally was baptized in 1963 at age 22. Okay, I'll do the math for you. I am now 82 years old. I will be 83 in August. From there, I spent most of my years in Worldwide until 1995. And then, you know, with the splits and change of doctrine, I kept searching around for where the fundamental beliefs were still being taught. That led me to different independent organizations. My mother was a member of Church of God International, so I also would occasionally visit with her.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So you have started an organization. I think a really, I guess, unique in the Church of God, and definitely very well needed for some folks in Africa. If you could maybe give us some background about the Tabitha Outreach Foundation and you know how it started and what it does.
Okay, in 2014, I attended a feast in Tyler, Texas, sponsored by Ron Dark. And at that feast, two young men came from Kenya and told us about an orphanage and a school that they had going on in Ogembo, Kenya. And one of the things they said was that the kids come to school every day and they eat lunch at school, but that's probably the only meal of the day that they have. And that concerned me because as a mother, and it's always been important to me, nutrition and how nutrition affects our life. And I said, well, this isn't going to work out very well. These kids, about 120 of them at that time, they need to have breakfast. Who can go to school with and really learn without breakfast? So we began to engage with one of these young men in sending money to support a breakfast program in Kenya. That was in 2014. In 2016 and 2017, he actually visited this country and I got to know him a little bit better. He invited me on a regular basis to come to Africa, come and meet these kids, come and see what's going on. Uh-uh, I'm not going to Africa. That was as far out of my comfort zone as if you told me, go get on Elon Musk's spaceship and go to the moon. I'm not going to Africa. I had several things that really frightened me about the concept of going to Africa. So I said no. However, I began to it was so pressed on me to look into this possibility of going to Africa that I began to check out some of the things that I thought I was afraid of. And just to keep this short, one by one, the things that frightened me seemed to be just taken off the table until it got to the point where I said, maybe I don't want to be eaten by a fish. And I asked my husband, would you mind if I went to Africa for 2 weeks by myself to check things out? He gave me his permission. And in 2018, I booked my first flight, January of 2018, to Kenya, to Nairobi. Linda Benton of
CEM, right?
CEM, yes, sorry, CEM asked to join me, and she did. And we flew over there together, and we spent 2 weeks on the orphan compound. We got to know the kids. We got to know the widows. While we were there, we scheduled a widows conference, and about 70 widows came for 2 days of feasting and fellowshipping and getting to know them. In Kenya, I found out while I was there, widows are not allowed to remarry. Now, I know you're going to ask me to explain that, and it's really difficult, but it has something to do with the fathers, if they die in the property, and who owns the property. And anyway, they're not allowed to remarry. They could be 25 years old, have 5 children, and they still can't remarry.
Wow, that is actually a law in Kenya?
It is a custom.
Okay.
A strong custom. Whether
Okay.
or not it is a law, that I can't address, I do not know. But the custom, the cultural custom, is so strong, they don't break it. They say that once your husband is gone, you are now married to Christ. So
so it's a predominantly Christian nation then.
yes, it
Okay.
is predominantly a Christian nation. So these women then have very little opportunity. They live in abject poverty. I visited several of them in their own homes. But the last day of the conference, one of the widows said to me, "When you go home, please do not forget us. When you go to your country, don't forget us." And I said to her and to the group, "I will not forget you, because I'm taking you home with me in my heart." And I did. And when I went home, I absolutely cried solidly for 3 months. I could not shake what I had seen and how they were living. And these are my sisters. These are my sisters in Christ. And I knew I had to do something.
Diane, when you say what you had seen, could you give us some examples of that?
Absolutely. They live in houses made of mud with thatched roofs. Sometimes the houses leak so badly that they don't even have a place to sleep. They might get a job during the tea picking season, or sometimes in the agricultural field, for $1 a day that would help get a loaf of bread for their children. But the poverty was more than I could have possibly imagined. And yet their spirits were so good. These people walk sometimes 12, 14, 20 miles to church every Sabbath. And they come early in the morning and they stay all day in fellowship, in singing, in praising. And then they turn around and they walk back to their homes at night.
Wow.
I felt like I had just entered into the first century church. It was quite inspirational to me. But I also knew that there had to be a way of serving. And education and training seemed to be what was needed the most. So I began to engage some of my friends in the church and outside of the church with the concept that we would form a charity to raise money to send the women who wanted to go to training in tailoring and dressmaking, and that we would purchase their we would pay for their fees, and we would purchase their sewing machines and their equipment. And that's kind of where we started. And we started with sewing machines, equipment, and training. So the goal was to give them a way to lift themselves up out of poverty. And as doing, then they could also help their children. Now, at the same time, our organization was also helping to educate high school students. So we had 13 that we were supporting through high school. Somehow,
Let me ask you, Diane. Diane, when you first went there and met these people, were they associated with a specific Sabbath church, or were they in different churches? How did that happen? Like,
well, there was a specific church with 4 or 5 different congregations, Sabbath keeping, that we visited and met these people.
got it.
So
You can continue, please.
well, we started by sending 13 kids to high school, and I visited again in 2019 in August, and I had the opportunity to take these kids shopping for their school supplies, which was really a lot of fun. And somehow, some way, and I've never really been able to explain it, within a year, those 13 kids grew to 43.
Wow.
And now we are supporting 43 high school students, paying their fees, paying their supplies, paying their transportation back and forth to school. Around that time is when Pastor Ansando came to the United States and stayed at my home. And we brought him to CGI, where you ordained him. And we began to talk about, well, one of the things when I visited in 2019, we had a conference with the school kids, and I asked them questions. What are the number one things that you feel you need in your schooling? And without a question, they felt that they needed a school where they could observe the Sabbath, because they can't do it in the regular schools that they were attending. So that became something that I thought, maybe we could start a school someday. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Now,
Never.
let me ask you a question. You say they couldn't observe the Sabbath. Did they have Saturday school?
Yes, they have Saturday school.
Okay.
So they weren't, and also they couldn't attend the feast because the school is going on during the feast.
Mm-hmm.
So Robert was here, and I know that you heard him tell the story that we were driving down the highway and I got a call. It wasn't just the fact that they couldn't attend Sabbath services. There were a lot of things about the Kenya school system that I found objectionable. And one of the things they do is they will decide in the middle of the school year, you haven't paid enough in fees. We're going to send you home and force your family to come up with some more money for your fees. And we were.
Hey, Diane, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've dealt with some people in Kenya, and I'm always getting requests for school fees. Could you explain a little bit to the audience what you know about this school fee thing that goes on in Kenya?
Well, the secondary schools require fees, and most of them are boarding schools. So it's not just the educational fees; it's the fees for housing too. And if you don't come up with the money, they send you home, and until you do come up with the money. So the widows have a terrible time. Let me tell you a little story. Last year, when I visited there, I visited with a group of widows in another area, And one woman stood up to give her testimony, and she said to me, she said, before you picked up my son and paid for his schooling, I was making and selling illegal liquor. And I knew I was going to go to jail, but it was the only way I could pay his school fees. And then you picked him up. I haven't had to sell illegal liquor for a year.
Wow.
That's
Fantastic.
just one small story that really tells the whole story. And it tells the whole story of what we're doing and why we're doing it. We're not only just educating the young people, we're helping the families. And whenever I get a thank you note from one of them, they always say, thank you for helping my family. So we're making a difference and we're excited about it because a difference really needs to be made.
Yeah, and hey, this is Christianity at its core, right?
It
Taking
is.
care of widows and orphans, clothing the naked, talking to the prisoners, visiting them. We can't forget about this aspect of Christianity. I think we get involved in knowledge and information and knowing our Bibles a lot, but we've got to remember uh, what's important about relationships and helping people out.
Well, our core scripture for our group is James 1:27. If you want to put it up, we'll read it.
I have to go find it real quick.
Jeff will find it. We got some comments from Robert on the widowship, reasoning behind the widows, and it's a little more information there, Diane, on that question. But here we go.
There's
Well,
you can you read it. Can you see that up
religion,
there?
yeah, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in distress and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. And we couple that with Matthew 25:40.
Okay,
Okay.
Jeff will bring that up.
Yep.
That's your great granddaughter, I hear, Diane.
Great granddaughter.
Okay.
She
I'm just
probably
letting
wants to be.
everybody know what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Matthew 25:40. There we go. Can you read that?
When I put my spectacles on, I can.
Okay.
Oh, yes. The king will reply, truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. So Jesus considers this very, very important work. I also like to use James, no, sorry, uh, John 13:35. We're supposed to be the light of the world, but how do we shine a light unless we do a work? So if you want to put John 13:35 up there, we can read that too.
Yeah, I'll read that one for you. It says, "By this, everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another."
Exactly. So
And
when you,
again, and what is love? It's not just a feeling or an emotion. It's actually doing something.
right,
Hmm.
it's doing what Jesus asked us to do. Exactly.
Hey, Diane, Robert is mentioning about a driving down with Robert. He said you forgot to say something about that.
Okay, I'm going to clear the record here. Robert told you last time when he was interviewed that I was driving very fast, and
Oh,
that when I got a call from one of the schools that they sent one of our kids home, that we had already fully paid all their expenses
Hmm.
for $50 that they decided we should come up with. He says I banged my fist on the dashboard and said, $50. We need to start our own school. He is correct. I banged my fist on the dashboard and
Mhm.
I said we need to start our own school. But I don't think I was driving as fast as he indicates, because you have to remember, in his country, you can only drive 45 miles an hour and on the wrong side of the road.
Mhm.
So the school that we have there now, the Tabitha Foundation supports the kids. Do they have to pay fees to get in there, or how does that work?
We started our school 2 years ago, exactly, with 43 students. Those 43 kids were in 22 other schools, and we brought them all together in one place. Now, how did this happen? This was a miracle. If you've ever wanted to see God's hand at work and a real miracle, this is it. Um, Robert had been here, and we discussed starting a school, and we looked at the options. We said, maybe we can do homeschooling and find a central location. Homeschooling, by the way, is legal in Kenya.
Mhm.
So the idea was to go back to Kenya and start searching for property that we could begin to do a school. We had two people check out the homeschooling option. That wasn't going to work very well. And Robert worked at looking for property, um, and that wasn't working very well. We got right to the very end of the time that we had, and said, "Okay, we're going to have to delay doing this until something else happens." And Robert got a call from an uncle that knew someone who had a school property that they were willing to lease us. We had
Wow.
exactly 2 weeks to get all the kids' documents and transfer records and bring them in to our facility that we leased. Now, I told
How a question that just arose, how far away do some of the kids come to this school?
um,
Like
4 hours.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Some come,
Wow.
they're coming from several different sections of
Mhm.
southwest Kenya.
And these are, how did you pick the kids, or how did the kids come there if they're 4 hours away? Was it all related to church, or
Yes,
no?
most of it, most of
Okay.
it,
Mhm.
most of it was related to church. We have the pastors vet the kids.
Mhm.
We're getting a little bit more stringent on our vetting process, because we started with 43, and in less than 2 years, we now have 106. So you
Wow.
can see how
Mhm.
the budget constraints can
Yeah.
be. Um, so we do have a vetting process. The pastors and the chiefs of the local areas, the kids have to fill out applications. They're coming in from eighth grade, where they have taken a national exam, and we have set a standard. So they have to achieve so many points on that national exam. Two
Mhm.
things they have to prove: one, need. There has to be a need.
Mhm.
And two, that they can do the work. Now, with our first 43, we didn't always have that standard. We had some that slid in that
Mhm.
couldn't really do the work, but that's okay. There are kids, and we have plans for them. When they finish their schooling, we will help them with trade and technology schools.
Mhm.
So, in less than 2 years, we have 106 students. We have 17 or 20 employees.
Let me show you. Yeah, I used some pictures you sent me. Uh, there we go.
Yeah,
So this is you've got your own building there. Is that correct?
yes, we have our buildings, our dormitories, our classrooms, our teachers' staff room, and their offices. This
Wow.
is
Wow.
all part of the complex. that we now are raising funds with a campaign to purchase this property. It's 4 acres, and we have plenty of room for um, uh, sports, and also some places to grow some of our own food. We have there is the Christian Ambassadors Congregation in Decatur, Georgia, has put up $30,000 as a matching fund campaign. They are asking that other people participate in these matching funds, and as of today, we have now added we added 10,000, and now we've added another 6,000. So that little red mark there is going to move up to 47,700. The
Wow.
goal is to purchase the property by October, when many of us will be going over there for the feast. And aside from putting up the funding for the purchase, Christian Ambassadors also has a grant fund set aside. As soon as the property belongs to us legally, and all of that is legally being worked on right now by Robert and the managing staff of the
Mhm.
school. As soon as the property belongs to us, then Christian Ambassadors has the funding to build and furnish a computer lab.
All right.
So we're very excited about that.
So let me ask you, Diane, it mentions in the current objective there, our current monthly operating expenses are 7,000. If you're able to purchase the land, uh, you no longer would have to rent, I guess. Would that lower the operating expenses each month, or what does that mean?
I'll tell you, the operating expenses are being lowered right now
Hmm.
because we have a principal who is dedicated to finding ways of saving money. We could bring that operating expense down to about 6,000 now
Hmm.
because of he has implemented purchasing methods that are saving money,
Okay.
and other things. So no, we won't save a whole lot of money because we had a very good lease agreement. We
Hmm.
were only paying $5,000 a year in leasing. But the thing is, we have to protect our investment because we've also put into the property. I I tell people now, if and by the way, I got COVID and was put in the hospital when this leasing agreement and everything was going on. So I handle a lot of this business from a hospital bed in Beaumont, Texas, 2 years ago. I have told people, if they had shown me pictures of these buildings, I would have said, no way, don't put our
Hmm.
kids in there, because they were in very, very bad shape. But
Hmm.
what I was told and what I know from being over there, they said, but you have to understand, these buildings were in far better shape than what these kids came from, their homes and things. And since I knew that, I had to agree. So a year ago, we did a campaign for raising funds to refurbish and restore the buildings. And we've put in at least $50,000 in total refurbishment. All the kids have new beds and bedding. The teachers have a new lounge. All the floors have been redone. The roof leaks have been repaired.
Hmm.
New desks, you can see the desks in some of those pictures. New desks were purchased or built. Old desks were repaired. So we have an excellent, excellent facility. I love that big building. I call it our multi-purpose room because if in that picture you can see the desks spread out for exams. But that's where they have Sabbath services, other events, and behind where you can't see is the dining area. So they all eat there also.
Wow. Wow. So how does this place get funding every year? I know Tabitha's involved with that, but who's providing Tabitha funding, Diane?
People who love what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is primarily people throughout the United States in various churches of God.
Mm-hmm.
And not.
Okay.
We have some people who are not part of our uh, religious fellowship who believe in what we're doing for the
Mm-hmm.
education part, and they are also helping. I have a girlfriend from high school, and that was a while ago. Um, she helps on a regular basis. We have been very blessed with with help, but it is a struggle every month. Every month, I'm sending out notices. Every month, I'm begging for help. Robert and I have traveled many thousand miles visiting churches, talking to people. Two main churches that have been our biggest support have been the Christian Ambassadors and also the Central Texas Church of God in near Temple, Texas. They've been, without them, we could have never done what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
then we have several people who send us $25 a month on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how much that has helped. How many times we have gotten right to the time where I need to send money over for food or for salaries, and it's short, but then here come the $25 a monthers.
Mm-hmm.
It's been quite an experience.
Now I see the website on the screen right now, Diane. If people want to assist you and help with this project, is that the main site to go to, or is there somewhere else they should?
No, that is the main site because our donate button goes directly to PayPal, and PayPal then goes directly to our bank account. So we have two campaigns going on right now, aside from the regular monthly support that we need every month.
Mm-hmm.
The one campaign, of course, is to raise the $23,000 by October so we
Mm-hmm.
can purchase the school and then go on and install the computer lab.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, I'm going to be starting a fundraising campaign either through a raffle or going out and speaking or something because we have a inspector coming the middle of June to
Mm-hmm.
inspect. We are registered. We're fully registered with the Kenya government, but we do have to improve our science laboratory. We have a science lab, but we need some more equipment. And I was told we need to put in a water tank and have running water and also put in the gas for the Bunsen burners. So
Mm-hmm.
we need to raise approximately $4,000 in the next um, few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, wow. And do these children receive any religious education
Oh,
during their regular
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
studies?
It is absolutely required by Kenya law that they all take a course called Christian religion education. But we are
Yeah,
also,
that's very interesting that the law requires it.
Yeah,
That's very different in
absolutely.
our country.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
But our kids all attend Sabbath services every Friday evening and on Saturday, and our pastors come and speak and help out with the kids and their spiritual concerns. Last year, after the feast, we had 13 baptized, which makes a total of baptized students in our school 18.
Wow.
So I don't know what will happen this year after the feast, but they are being spiritually led and spiritually nurtured. And that will continue because a lot of these kids, when they leave school, they're going to go on to higher education, they're going to go on to trade schools. But we know that some of them will be joining Pastor Ansando's Christian Bible Center
Mm-hmm.
so that they will also learn how to uh, bring the word to their communities and to their families.
Fantastic,
Wow.
fantastic. This is a great work. I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing here. And what else can you tell us, Diane? We've still got some time left on the program. What else do you want to discuss about Tabitha?
Well, we have not forgotten our widows. You remember that that was the very first thing that I started, and I have not forgotten them. And their need is still as great as it ever has been. Just this morning, I got uh, a text from one of our. By the way, we also we also have 5 students in higher education, and one we have sent all the way through college, and she has graduated now. She spent 5 months student teaching with us, and she's going on to bigger and better things. But we still have 5 in college that we support every
Wow.
month, and one of them, 2 of them have had to have eye surgery in the last couple of weeks, which we have also done. But we got a message this morning that Jeffrey Amok's mother's home was flooded and mud has collapsed her home. So we will also be looking into rebuilding her home. We started there 6 years ago. We rebuilt homes for widows. We rebuilt 6 homes for widows. The homes are made of mud. They don't last forever.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they get, the best thing you can do is just knock them down and start over again.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely are going to be putting more widows into sewing training. We've actually rented agricultural property for widows who have wanted to grow their own food and have their own living.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to stop. This is the Tabitha Outreach Foundation. And the reason it has the name Tabitha Outreach is because when I wanted to start a 501c3, I wondered what the name should be. And I was on my way home from church one day, and the name Tabitha just kept coming through my mind. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I think I know that story. I'm going to go home and look it up. And if it fits, that's what we're going to do. So, of
Okay.
course, I looked it up in Acts chapter 9, and it talks about Dorcas or Tabitha and her sewing skills. And
Mm-hmm.
you all know that story. So I said, yes, that's where we're starting, the sewing machine. Starting, I didn't know we were going to go anyplace else, what we were going to do. So I named it the Tabitha Outreach Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
although it is a public charity. It is not a foundation. And sometimes people have been confused by that. But in this country, you are allowed to put the name foundation on a public charity.
Mm-hmm.
And I did because I'm fishing around for something that I thought might attract interest.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we are the Tabitha Outreach Foundation.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's very, very. I think it's a good name. It sounds good. I guess it keeps you from being, uh, there's other Tabitha charities out there as well, so it keeps you from being
And
confused.
since we began, many more have cropped up. It
Yeah.
seems as though people are copying us, which has, kind of caused a problem that we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
But hey,
Diane, I saw that Robert commented in the chat box here. that you and him and Mike do a 2-month fundraising trip. I know you've done it the last couple of years. Is that becoming an annual thing now?
Apparently so,
Mhm.
but it's going to become more than that. We have one of our board members is also prepared to start going out and visiting smaller independent
Mhm.
churches with our presentation. I myself am also ready to start traveling. So I will go anywhere I'm invited at any time. And we're
Mhm.
going to get this message out. Um, these are our brothers and sisters. I can't emphasize enough that you don't fully grasp it until you've been there. And once you've been there, you'll never be the same.
Yeah, I can understand what you mean by that, having visited Thailand and India,
Mhm.
and just seeing how different the situations are in other countries. Now, India definitely has its modern areas and what you would consider a big city type feel in New Delhi, but there's another side to New Delhi that is squalor and that
Mhm.
is poverty
Mhm.
Mhm.
to the nth degree, and it blows your mind when you see people
Mhm.
and how they're living when you come back to the States
Mhm.
and realize how lucky we are to have what we have here.
I came home being so thankful for my washing machine and my toilet.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, just those things we use every day. I know
Right.
one fella in Kenya who has to walk about an hour to get water every day
Mhm.
and come
Mhm.
back to his home. And,
Mhm.
we don't even think about it. We just turn on our faucet and we've
Mhm.
got water in our homes.
And we're so spoiled. We're so spoiled. It's just incredible. And I really personally believe that one day we will stand in front of our Savior and
Mhm.
give an answer for how we treated the least of these, our brethren.
Mhm.
Now, I will tell you that I have been criticized openly many times for being involved in Africa because I've been told we have hungry people in this country. We do. We have hungry people. We have homeless people.
Mhm.
But we also have many more avenues of getting help. In Kenya, our hungry people, our homeless people have
Mhm.
one place to go, and that's the Father. Because there are no, we don't, there are no food banks, there are no food stamps, you
Mhm.
know, and we can't continue to turn our back and not look. That's just not right.
Yeah, we get a lot of requests from Kenya. I deal with our overseas ministries, and the home office will receive letters from different places. They'll see our websites in other countries, and we'll get letters that eventually come to me. I got to tell you, Kenya, we get more letters from Kenya than any
Mhm.
other country, and Africa, as far as continents go, more letters from Africa than any other part of the world. Any
Mhm.
idea from your experience why that might be? I know that Africa's big on Christianity, at least some countries, and Kenya especially. But any other thoughts on that, Diane?
Well, one thing we have to acknowledge is that the situation in Kenya is not good. It's
Mhm.
very difficult for people to get good paying jobs. So, one thing they have there is internet access. And it is amazing. It's good. It's sometimes better than what I have.
Mhm.
Using the internet access, many people have found that Americans and other Westerners have a lot of compassion. So there have been many, many scam programs put
Mhm.
out there. it's sad to say. And actually, just this last week, as I was at my bank trying to arrange for wire transfers, they just said, how do you know? How do you know these people aren't scamming you? How do
Mhm.
you know? Well, fortunately, I know because I've spent time there and I
Yeah.
will be going back. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
so I do know. Uh, but that's not the case with
Mhm.
all these. And we know people, we've seen them. We know people who gather up kids, put funny looking clothes on them, and send out letters saying, I have
Mhm.
these orphans, please send me money, they're hungry.
Mhm.
And they don't have those kids at all. So it's really you walk a fine line, but you need to be very careful about who you send your money to. And
Yeah.
that I didn't ever want to be a 501c3. I
Mhm.
thought that was pretentious.
Yeah.
And where would I ever get enough money to have to worry about it?
Mhm.
But because I am a 501c3, at least we can offer a big measure of accountability. We file every single year, every penny is accounted for.
Yeah,
And
what percent of the money that people donate go actually to Kenya?
I love to tell you that
Yeah.
because it's 96%. Because
That's high because my wife had created a 501c3 that she ran for a while, and that percentage to go to the exact thing that you are advertising that it's going to is very high. Some of these places only 50%, 40% of the
Mhm.
money gets to what it's all about.
And that's exactly why I started this and put it in the bylaws that we will not pay anyone other than, of course, we pay our employees over there. But on
Mhm.
this side, we are all volunteers,
Yeah.
and and that's how 96%
Mhm.
goes to Kenya because we take nothing out for ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great point to make, Diane, because dealing with our overseas ministries,
Mhm.
I have experienced some of what you're talking about, where some scammers have come along and we've discovered some things.
Mhm.
We've had a few experiences now, so I'm very wary of how I'm operating with people when they come to the church and they want to connect with us. Robert has been a huge help for CGI operating in Africa, not only in Kenya, but in the other countries that
Mhm.
we're in now. Robert has been able to visit some of these people,
Mhm.
get a feel for what is going on, and
Mhm.
know whether or not these people are on the up and up, as we say.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is a great thing that you're doing, Diane, and I'm glad we can promote it a little bit more here. Any final comments that you got for the audience out there?
I haven't really been able to read what they're saying. But, I will say, I will add to this that in the 6 years I've been doing this, we also have experienced some scams along the way. But what it did was it made me smarter.
Mhm.
So we now know what to look out for and we know how to overcome. And I can say honestly that I'm very, very happy with the way our funds are being
Mhm.
handled. Robert oversees all of it.
Mhm.
But we have other people under him who answer to him and then they answer to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
So um, we're going to be going back, of course, in October to purchase the school. We also will be having a feast site there. So
Mhm.
you're all invited to come
Yeah.
and feast with us at the edge of the Maasai Mara and do some game drives. And it's an experience you will never forget. Someone tried to tell me that many years ago. Oh, you should go to Africa. You'll love it. It's wonderful. And I'm like, I'm not going. But God has a huge sense of humor,
Mhm.
and he sent me because I wasn't going. And I'm just so grateful that at my age, he has allowed me this privilege of serving the least of these my brethren.
Yeah, this is a big endeavor, Diane, and
Mhm.
you're 82, right?
I'm almost 83. In 3 months, I'm
Oh, wow.
83.
And that's awesome that people can continue to contribute and do great works
Mhm.
for God, and you're a living example of that. So
Yeah.
kudos to you and Mike and Robert and everybody involved with
And
Tabitha.
I want all the elderly women out there to hear this and to get busy and get behind what Christ is doing.
Yeah.
That's
So
right. That's right. Keep going. Keep
yeah.
going.
Yeah. Proof that you can't. You don't need. There's no retirement for being a Christian.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's
Good
true.
that you
good
Yeah.
way to put that, Jeff.
that
I
you're
like
always that you always have responsibilities to God's people and
And it's
to
proof
God.
that if God could use me, he can use anybody.
Hmm.
What's that scripture in Corinthians? The least of, he calls the least to confound the wise.
yes.
Well, he really
Yes.
found the least in me, but
Hmm.
I'm so grateful that he has allowed me this opportunity, and I'm so grateful for all our donors. Every one of our donors is now a personal friend. It doesn't get any better than that.
Hmm.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Yeah.
So basically, you vet everything there. If people maybe people have been scammed before, but they can know with confidence that if they help out the Outreach Foundation, they're going to be helping out Christians, Sabbath keeping Christians
Mhm.
in Kenya that really and widows and orphans that need your help, and you
Correct.
can be a part of that.
Absolutely correct.
So definitely, it's something that's a good work, and and again something we're supposed to do as God's church.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate you sharing your story today with us and sharing some of the things that you're doing there. I know we've talked with Robert about it before, but we'll definitely, I'm sure, have you back, for some updates. Because for some
Thank you.
reason, I think that the 100, I don't think it's going to stop there. I think you're going to, it's going to grow even more. Sounds the more
Well,
you're going.
okay, we already have plans for opening our own trade and technical school
Hmm.
Wow.
in
Wow.
January of 2025. As I said, we do have some students who just aren't going to, they're not college material, and we
Yeah.
know that. But we want to make sure that they have trades. So we have the plan. Once the property belongs to us, we will open trade schools, and we will provide teaching in woodworking, sewing. We have a knitting school that we think we're going to do, um, tailoring, welding, and we're excited about just helping each and every one of our kids um, move, bring themselves up out of poverty by their own mother. And boy, let me tell you one thing they need over there. They need plumbers.
Mm, okay.
So we need to add plumbing to our school.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. I
Well,
got a cousin who's a plumber. So
We'll send him over. We're ready to use him. But I also see the handwriting on the wall. This is one campus. We will have more. And I see our next move possibly into Tanzania or Uganda.
okay.
I'm just seeing it, and other areas of Kenya. But it's all up to God. This is God's work. This is not my work. And one of the things I want to emphasize is that this is a collaborative effort of all the people that God has picked to be a part of this work. The
Mhm.
fact that it's my face and my name on it is only circumstantial because this is God's work. He wanted this done. I just thank him so much that he used me. It's such a joy.
All right.
thank you, Diane. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for joining us today.
Thank
Uh,
you for the opportunity.
all right, well, we're going to say goodbye to everyone right now. But before we do that, we'll say goodbye. But before we do that, we're going to show a short commercial for our guests next week, and then the show will just go to close. So we'll
Okay.
say goodbye to everyone. Here's a preview for next week.
At the 2023 feast in Norfolk in the UK, an Australian sheep farmer presented a two-part message based on Isaiah 11, where the nature of predators will change to become like their prey. He challenged the audience with some questions. Why does the Bible talk about God's people being sheep? Are sheep are seen as stupid? Is the kingdom about stupid followers of God? Do we leave our brains at the door to come into the kingdom? He finished with the concept that sheep behaviour provides analogies for us. So if God calls his people sheep, could there be aspects of sheep behaviour that in fact describe how we should behave? Could sheep behaviour be godly behaviour? If sheep behaviour replaces lion behaviour in the kingdom, could sheep indicate how the millennium and the kingdom of God will operate? So what are some of the distinguishing features of sheep? Is there something we can learn from sheep? Join Mike and Jeff on Prove All Things when they interviewed the Australian sheep farmer about his lifelong association with sheep and what he has learnt about their behaviour from the biblical viewpoint.